So guys, these are the amendments from last we had done. There are a few things which they have added into your module. Majorly these are the ones: clearing corporation, superior voting rights. I have given you which chapter also it is in. Compliances under LODR, informant incentives and rewards, eligibility criteria for registration of mutual funds, asset management company, and calculation of redemption price. So these are the major ones, and in this I expect that there can be a question from this. The others are a very minor changes, which is like nothing predominant as such, but these two are very important, even conceptually as well as from your exam point of view. So what we'll do first, we'll see what these two are, we'll understand, and rest we'll see what it is about. The first one, the concept of superior voting rights. Sir, what is this? In your company law, there is something called as differential voting shares, also called as differential voting rights, differential voting shares. Sir, what is that? It allowed you can issue a equity share. Ideally, one equity share will have one vote. Ideally, one equity share will have one vote. What is this differential issue? You can issue shares which has one equity share equals to 2 or 10 votes. I mean to say, between 2 to 10, you can allot any number of votes for one particular share. Meaning, sir, when you are passing a special resolution, if at all it is an ordinary share, one share equals to one vote. If at all you had a differential share, your one share was having 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10 votes. Meaning these people were predominant people. Sir, who would want such thing where they want to make sure that whatever they have, even one share will have 10 votes. Imagine if you had 10,000 shares, you have 1 lakh votes. So people were they were actually misusing this particular thing. So in a listed entity, a person like me who has only one share of Infosys, no value at all. What will I do with one share? One share, one vote. Where, for which, what even I'll do with that particular thing? So in the year 2009, July 2009, SEBI said, going forward, there cannot be issue of such votes which are called as superior voting rights. In the year 2009, because people were misusing it. A normal person, his vote had no value at all. All the people, whoever are in the predominant position, they issued these shares to themselves and they started taking misuse of it. Now, in the year 2019, exactly after 10 years, SEBI felt there is a need, if at all there is a listed company and unlisted company. Listed company and unlisted company. In the year 2019, SEBI said people who are listed, they cannot issue super voting rights. But people who are unlisted, they can issue super voting rights. Why, sir? When you are an unlisted company, public at large are not involved, unlike a listed company. So, if you are an unlisted company, SEBI said here none of them were able to issue, but here it gave a leeway to the unlisted company. Sir, why, sir? It was a major tool for promoters. Whoever started the company, tomorrow, if others also come in, they will start deciding the terms of the company. So, I as a promoter, what will I get? So, unlisted company could issue superior voting right to the promoter. Sir, what is this differential voting and superior voting? If you remember, guys, a equity share can be of two types. One is your ordinary share. The second one is your differential share. Ideally, differential voting right or differential voting share. In this, ordinary share will ideally have one share equals one vote. Under differential share, what used to happen? Now, a person like me, I am least bothered in the decision making of Infosys. So, what I used to tell them, you do one thing, you give me less of voting rights. Now, for example, if it is one share equals one vote, you do not give me voting at all. Or assume for two shares, give me one vote. But pay me more dividend. So, an option was given to people whether do you want more dividend or you want more voting right. People who chose more dividend used to get more dividend. People who chose to get more voting right, they used to get more voting right. That particular share is called as differential share with respect to voting right. So, in the year 2009, it said that a person shall not get superior voting right, meaning you can have how many ever votes you want. In the 2019, they made sure going forward, yes, it is required and unlisted companies were allowed to issue superior voting right. And there was also a cap which said whenever you are issuing a superior voting right, it should have a minimum of 2 votes. Meaning, one superior voting share should have a minimum of 2 votes and it can have a maximum of 10 votes. So, if you have one share of superior voting right, it is like a trump card. You will have 10 votes. So, from only one share you can vote 10. So, the count will be 10. Sir, what is that so much difference, sir? Imagine if you want to pass ordinary resolution, if you want to pass special resolution, if you have so many votes, you don't have an opponent itself. That is the advantage of superior voting rights.
No?
Huh?
Like special resolution has to be passed or ordinary resolution?
Special resolution to pass.
So, can you repeat the reason why it is allowed only for unlisted companies?
Listed company, there are more people. If at all we give this as a weapon to listed companies, what happened to people? They whatever they want to say, who will listen to them? So in unlisted company, public involved are less. So here it is okay to take the chance. In listed company, people involved are more. So there you cannot afford to give this right to the promoter. In unlisted company, it is a normal company, small company, private companies or any company where it is not a big company. It's not a huge company. Not many people are involved. That is the reason it was only given to a unlisted company. Got the point? So first one, minimum should be 2, maximum will be 2, maximum will be 10. Second one, only given to unlisted company. Third one, it shall be issued only to promoters. A outsider is not eligible for a super voting right. Why, sir? Imagine if at all there is any takeover, someone is trying to take over your company. Though he takes over the share, because it is your company, you will be able to protect it. It acts as a protection to the promoter. So these three conditions should be satisfied when you are issuing a super voting right. Now see what does the law say. There can be a question on this, guys. So differential rights appended to such equity shares may be made with respect to dividend or voting. Higher or lower, anything is possible. With the apprehension of misuse of superior voting right by the issue of shares by the listed company, SEBI prohibited the issue of such shares in July 21, 2009. However, share with inferior voting rights were permitted by SEBI. After July 29, 2019, SEBI again gave a green signal to what? Superior voting rights equity share. And it allowed unlisted companies. It was allowed only to unlisted companies. Okay, sir. Sir, unlisted companies meaning? Now, if you are a private company, it is not at all a problem. Now imagine if at all you are a unlisted company. Sir, what if this company goes for listing? What happens at that time? So there was a cap given within which, if at all you were an unlisted company and you had issued superior voting rights, that share, there was a time period given to you to convert the shares into normal share, if at all you become a listed company. I repeat, if at all you had unlisted company, you had issued, no problem. Sir, what if I convert myself into a listed company? I give you a time period of 5 years from date of listing. From the date of listing, within 5 years, whatever your superior voting right shares are should get converted to your normal share.
If not, then
Penalty. So maximum another 5-year extension will be given. We'll see, I'll show you the conditions. This is a maximum extension. For this also there should be a special resolution passed. If not, that time there will be a penalty. You got the concept?
so for extension, special resolution has to be passed.
Exactly. So, sir, if at all I have to issue the special superior voting right share, SR shares, what are the conditions I need to follow? First thing, you have to be a person, you have to be a company who is into technology, IT, intellectual property, biotechnology, nanotechnology. So, the superior voting right is not available to any random person. It is available only to those people who are into this particular field or sector. Okay, sir. Next one. a SR shareholder shall not be part of the promoter group whose collective investment net worth is more than 500 crore. Sir, meaning, we told, first read the third condition. SR share were issued only to promoter or founder. So only to the promoter or founder you have to issue the SR shares. Okay, sir. Even in that there is a condition. What is that? If at all the promoter's net worth is more than 500 crore, if the promoter's net worth is more than 500 crore, then you cannot issue to him. Ideally, you have to issue a SR share only to a promoter. That is the person who starts the business. But if at all he is belonging to a group company of which the net worth is more than 500 crore, you cannot issue it to him. Okay, sir. You should pass a special resolution before issuing such share. Minimum voting right shall be 2. Maximum shall be 10. All the SR share shall be of same face value and they shall belong to the same class of equity share. So basically the face value should be maintained as 10 only of all. There should not be any changes in that. Okay, sir.
Can you repeat, sir? Actually, it got stuck in between. I couldn't hear that.
Okay, same SR share should have the same face value, not more than that. Every SR share shall have, now say for example, you cannot have 2 or 3 classes, meaning one SR share is having 10 rupees face value, the other one has 20 rupees, the other one has 30, that cannot be the case. All the SR shares should have the same face value. So you cannot have a different class of SR shares. Okay, sir. The maximum SR shares you can ever issue is 74% of your equity capital. Meaning, sir, my entire equity is 100 crore. The maximum you can issue differential one is up to 74%. Is a maximum cap. Okay, sir. Easily. Sir, up to what time I can hold my SR share? Imagine if at all you are getting converted from an unlisted company to a listed company, you are going for listing. Whenever on the 5th anniversary, meaning what? After 5 years of your listing, you have to convert your SR shares to ordinary share. Meaning, sir, before I had 1 share equals 1 vote. I mean 1 share equals 10 vote. After conversion, it should become 1 share equals 1 vote. You have to convert it into your normal ordinary equity share. This has to happen within a period of 5 years. A maximum extension can be given another 5 years.
Sir,
Huh?
can you show that above point?
Which one?
That promoter group one, actually, yeah. From this one, sir, can you explain this two, 5 and this two, because I couldn't hear you, sir, at the time.
I didn't get you.
So you said the SR shareholder shall not be a part of promoter group.
Huh.
Why? Sir, what will happen?
Not promoter group. If at all you are already forming a part of promoter group wherein your net worth is more than 500 crore, the law says this is given to a small promoter, not a person belonging to such a huge capital. So it is only given to a small person but not such a big person. For example, Narayan Murthy cannot claim because his net worth is more than 500 crore. So if you are belonging to now say Tata, your promoter group is more than 500 crore, you cannot claim this SR shares. So if it is only available for small people. Okay, sir. So 5th anniversary. So if at all you are getting converted from unlisted to listed company, you have to convert your existing SR shares to ordinary shares. Additional time of 5 years will be given. provided you pass a special resolution. Okay, sir. And except for voting, except for voting, rest all cases, SR shareholder shall be treated equally with ordinary shareholder. Meaning, sir, only difference is with respect to your votes. Rest all is the same. Meaning, you will still get the notice. You can still appoint the director. You can participate in any other meetings. So, whatever a ordinary shareholder can do, all that even a superior right holder can do. Because ideally, he is a equity shareholder. So, nothing much here. Ideally, rest all cases, your power will be similar to that of a ordinary shareholder. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So, a SR shareholder will compulsorily get converted into a equity share of an ordinary share after 5 years. But in these cases, the SR share will get converted to ordinary share immediately. The 5 years also is not given. When, sir? To whomever you have allotted the share, the promoter, if that person dies, SR share will get converted to normal ordinary share. Next one, sir. Now, you have allotted the SR share to a director. That is a promoter who is in a director position. You resign from that position. Again, your SR share gets converted to ordinary share. Whenever you are converting, whenever you are getting merged or acquired by any other company, at that time also the SR share will get converted to ordinary share. The last one, if at all a SR shareholder is selling his shares to an outsider, the moment he sells his share, it becomes a ordinary share. So what are the cases, sir? Death, resignation, merger acquisition, selling of share by the shareholder. It becomes a ordinary share. Okay, sir. So that is your superior voting right. Sir, what do we have to remember here? Try to remember 8 to 10 points here. What, sir? What is superior voting right? Maximum cap 74%. Minimum 2 votes, maximum 10 votes. If at all an unlisted company is converting into a listed company, maximum 5 years plus 5-year addition will be given. And when will it get converted? Compulsory conversion. So remember all this. It is very important from your exam perspective. Okay, sir. The next one, again a important one, guys. It is added in your insider trading chapter. Sir, what is this? Informant, incentive and reward. Sir, what is this? Understand the first particular paragraph, you will understand the entire scenario. Sir, what does it say? Incentive and reward for the informant who submits to SEBI a voluntary information relating to any violation of insider trading law. So an informant shall submit original information by furnishing voluntary information disclosure form to Office of Information Protection of SEBI. Sir, what exact is this? Guys, listen, it's a very simple process. What is this, sir? There is a particular person called as informant. Sir, what do you mean by informant? Just like your any other police mystery case. Now, this person got to know that some person is doing insider trading. He got to know that he had a information that some person is doing a insider trading. So this person has a original information on that yes, this person is involved into original trading. Now what does he do? He communicates the original information to Office of Information of Protection of SEBI, saying that, sir, I know a person who is a friend of mine called Mr. B. He has access to price sensitive information, so he is doing insider trading, sir. So you have a original information. Now what does the law say? Whenever you have a information, SEBI will conduct inquiry now on this particular person, Mr. B. If it's genuine, it will order penalty and collect fine from such insider, whoever is doing such fraud. Now what will it happen? Now it will tell the insider, thank you for giving the information. Because you gave us the information, we were able to catch the thief who did the insider trading. Because you did this, you are entitled to reward. Again I repeat, when a person who has a information on a person who is going to do insider trading or is doing insider trading. So if at all you know that yes, this person is going to do insider trading, so what do? You go and inform it to SEBI, saying that, sir, someone is going to do this information insider trading, sir. You please go ahead and you catch them. So SEBI will go and conduct the inquiry. If at all everything is fine, it will recover the money through penalty. And because you help them, it will give you a reward. So this concept has been introduced afresh in your particular subject. Understood the scenario? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Sir, suppose like if SEBI comes to know like that we had done anything, it was just a false information, then what?
So this has to be a original information. What is the original information is also prescribed. Meaning, sir, it should not be vague. It should not be false. SEBI should not already have the information. That is why it is called original information. Meaning, SEBI already knows that is happening. That time, it is not original information. Getting the point?
Yes, so means like SEBI doesn't know that who is doing, but he knows that some sort of like insider trading.
Even then you will not get the reward. SEBI should not know anything. You should give them a random news. Only then you will get reward. If SEBI already knows, why will it give you money? Ah,
How does that person who gives that information know that SEBI is already on the investigation, sir? Will it disturb the sir?
See, first thing, SEBI should prove that I had this information earlier. How it is SEBI should prove? For example, I had the information, I had the document, I have conversation, I have emails. So, SEBI, if it is able to prove, then it will not give reward. But if SEBI is not able to prove, then it will not get reward. Yeah? Now, okay. Now tell me, sir, this informant is a compliance officer. Who is a compliance officer? Sir, a CS has been appointed in the listed stock exchange, in the company, to make sure that everything is fit and proper. Now you got to know that there is something happening. Now you informed SEBI, sir, something is happening, please take care. And whatever your information, it was correct. They recovered money. Now tell me whether the compliance officer is eligible for reward.
I think he will not be eligible, sir.
Why?
No, he will be eligible because of he will be eligible, sir.
Okay. So what does SEBI say? I have appointed you only for that reason. You are doing your regular job. So if a compliance officer does, he will not get he will not get reward. So what does that mean? Now assume there was a CBI investigation authority which is happening. There was police people who came and they got to know that yes, there is some fraud happening. Now police will file a case on this particular person with SEBI. Will police get a incentive? The answer is no, he will not get. Why? His job is only letting him to do that. So a person like me and you, a outsider, a employee, if they get to know, they will get a reward. If your job is only to do that, a CBI agent, a police officer, or say for example a stockbroker, a register and share transfer agent, where your job is only for that, you will get to know because of that, you will not be given reward. So you should be a person who is not designated for that. Only then you will be called as an informant. Getting the point?
Yes.
Okay. So, a informant or his legal representative. Anyone can file a original information with SEBI. So, SEBI will say, yes, whatever you have filed is true. I admit whatever you have given. Then it will give a reward. What are the conditions and all, we'll see. On receipt of voluntary information disclosure form. Sir, what is this voluntary information disclosure form? In this only you will make the original information known to SEBI. Now that office will forward that information to the prescribed department of SEBI. Now SEBI will look into the matter. It will either accept or reject your particular application. Now, if at all your matter is fine, if at all whatever you have applied is correct, now you will get a informant reward. What is that, sir? Upon collection or substantial recovery of money. So, SEBI went, it recovered the money from that person, amounting to at least twice the reward. Sir, meaning, sir, if at all you are entitled for 5 lakh rupees, SEBI should at least recover 10 lakh rupees. So it should be double of recovery. So reward is, it should be double. Only then you are entitled to reward. Okay, sir. However, the amount of reward shall be 10% of the monetary sanction collected or recovered and shall not exceed 1 crore or such higher amount as may be prescribed. Sir, what is this? Now, SEBI says it should be at least double of the information whatever you are giving us. It should be at least recovering double. How much I will give you? You are entitled to 10% of whatever I recover. So whatever I recover, your reward will be 10% or maximum of 1 crore. So 10% subject to the maximum cap of 1 crore, whichever is less. So sir, what is the reward I get? 10% of whatever information you have given, subject to a maximum of 1 crore, not more than that. Okay sir. If at all SEBI deems fit, it can even pass a interim order not exceeding 10 lakh rupees. Meaning, sir, what do you mean by interim order? Sir, before passing a final order, you told until the SEBI recovers, it will not give you money. Correct? If at all it deems fit, even before recovering the money, it can pass a interim order. That is provisional order up to an amount of 10 lakh rupees, not exceeding that. Sir, what if there are more than one informant? Whatever the amount, subject to maximum that only, will be distributed equally. Meaning, sir, whatever is this 10% or 1 crore, this will remain same. If at all there is more than one informant, it will be distributed equally. Sir, from where will the money come, sir? The money will be distributed from IEPF, Investor Education Protection Fund. So, the reward will be issued from the Investor Education Protection Fund. Okay, sir. SEBI will reject the claim when, sir, whatever I told you the grounds, same thing, where it is not a original information. You have acquired the original information because of the authority, that is, you are a member or officer of any of this regulatory agency, self-regulatory organization, investigation wing, law enforcement organization, just like police. You have got the information because of your capacity. You will not get any reward. Okay. Second one, if at all SEBI has initiated some criminal proceedings against you, if you are only giving the information, you will not get any reward. On whom criminal proceedings are pending. And Shayan, if at all false, fictitious, fraudulent, all those things you will not get any reward. And as I told you, compliance officer, you will not get any reward.
So,
Huh.
why will SEBI give the money from IEPF only, sir? For the
Investor Education Protection Fund, if you remember, whatever penalties SEBI will recover, that will be transferred to IEPF only. From day one we have seen same thing. So it is a fund maintained by SEBI. So guys, these two are clear. Any doubts in this?
No, sir.
Very important from your exam point of view. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah? Eligibility criteria they have just given. If at all you have to open a mutual fund, there are certain changes. Just go through one that is not at all something rocket science, but make sure those two concepts are well versed, because those are very important when compared to others. And there is a final part where in mutual fund chapter there was one formula. Just write on this formula in your mutual fund. Ideally this was not there in your syllabus, but people used to ask question. That is why they have introduced this particular concept as well. I believe I have given you. So these are two formulas. Uh, did we see this when we were doing mutual funds?
No, sir.
We didn't do? Okay. Sir, what is this? Whenever a mutual fund is offering certain units to an outsider, at what price it will offer? NAV is ideally whatever is the value of the asset. Entry load is basically its commission. So, whenever it is offering you, it will offer you a mutual fund at whatever is the value of the asset. Now, assume in some value of a mutual fund is 100 rupees. Plus, it will charge its commission. Entry load is nothing but, entry and exit load is nothing but commission. It is always dependent on offer price or redemption price. Meaning, sir, if at all say entry load is 5%, it is 5% of offer price. So it is always dependent on redemption price, or it is always dependent on offer price. So if at all you have to buy mutual funds, so I am talking from an outsider. Assume you are buying a mutual fund and the NAV of it, that is Infosys, Reliance, everything put together. If you remember, we had done that NAV chart. It is coming to 100 rupees. He charges 5% commission. Assume this is coming to 105 rupees. Ideally, it is based on an offer price. They would have given you what is the offer price. You have to calculate the percentage of that. Becomes your entry load. Now, what do you mean by this, sir? Whatever is the net value, on that you have to pay 5 rupees extra to buy this. Sir, what do you mean by exit load? Again, when you are selling it, this is when you are buying it. So you sell your share, you will get your NAV as on that day, net asset value. From that, they will minus their commission. That is nothing but your exit load. So if at all it is 100 rupees you sell, minus 5 rupees they sell, and they will give you only 95 rupees. So when you are coming in, they will charge extra and invite. When you are going out, from whatever you have sold, they will take their commission and they will send you out. This is called as a NAV, offer price and redemption price. Any doubt in this?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So these were the major concepts, guys. I will forward you the PDF. You go through once. The rest are the few here and there changes, easily readable. You just go through once. If you have any doubt, you ask me. Major ones were this. If you have any other doubt also, you can ask me. Any other doubts, guys? No? Make sure you're thorough with these two concepts in specific. The rest are manageable. These two are mandatory. Clear?